the stream open on the side just in case.
You are live. Okay, view on YouTube. Continue. I think we're here, guys.
The stream open on the side just in case.
Yeah. You are live.
You have to mute that.
Okay, view on YouTube. We're here, guys. All right. I think I should share this link out on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay. We are here. Okay. ByteofWhy podcast episode 2. Welcome everybody. I'm joined by Kaushik, go by KKBR2823. I'm joined by my buddy Nash from Tesla and the Gong, all the way from Australia. I'm joined by two very special guests for this episode. Glen from Canada and Mark from the US.
Awesome.
Thank you for being here, guys. I appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday to be with us and discuss this super topic that we're all excited about.
Sunday early morning for me. And for
Sunday early morning for you.
10 o'clock.
All right. Okay. So the topic of today's discussion is Autopilot and FSD Beta, because FSD Beta is here. And Mark has got first and second hand experience with the beta, sitting in a vehicle recently. I think it was the 2020.40.12 or 8.12 or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Because I think they released the .13 last night or something, right?
Yeah, it was on Monday, this Monday. So I think it's before the latest update, just before this last one.
Awesome. I love how Tesla just releases everything at nighttime. Like people are having dinner and then they release an update and here you go. All right.
We all go running out to our cars.
Yeah.
Our family's looking at us like, what? What is happening here? I'm like, software update. Shh, I'll be back.
Exactly. Well, at least now we can tell the world that the car can drive itself. At least it's starting to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's super exciting. Awesome.
The first thing that came to my mind when I saw that video where John and Raj went out for the drive, that's the first one I watched. The first thing that came to my mind was that scene from Back to the Future where, Doc Brown says, this is a red letter day in the history of science, and he puts the time when he invents time machine. But I think this is the time when we can finally say a production car drove itself on unmarked roads. Absolutely. I was stoked. I was absolutely stoked.
The thing that really got me was the unrehearsed reactions that they had.
Yes, that was so good. Yeah.
I can't wait till I get to experience that myself for the first time.
Yeah, we all #FSD Beta Canada.
Let's
straight away, right off the bat.
FSD Oz as well, please. Thanks.
Is that right? Is that what it's called in Australia?
FSD Oz, yeah. We'd like to have #FSD Oz.
Yeah, we got to make that trending on Twitter. All right. Yeah. So what we've done is to structure this podcast and to make sure that we have some sort of an agenda that we can work through so that the viewers get the best bang for their buck while spending their time. We basically put together the history of Autopilot, and we're gonna basically talk to Mark, and we're gonna check with him how the FSD Beta is tackling these or enhancing these features, because Tesla has been good enough to slip small things over time to us, enhancing our experience with Autopilot. And now they have this massive software dump that's supposed to revolutionize everything. So it's exciting. All right. Mother Frunkers in the house. Hey, Franklin, thanks for joining. Thanks, everybody. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen here. And
this looks awesome. This looks super professional and super awesome. Yeah, awesome.
I think it's a good step up from episode 1.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Once again, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Glen, for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Well, thanks for the invite.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right. We're going to start. Mark, what do we drive? Mark, can you just take us through your Tesla? Just give us a brief introduction.
Yes, so I have a Midnight Silver Metallic Model 3 Performance, and I got it in early 2019. It's a December 2018 build, and I originally bought it with enhanced autopilot when that was offered, and then shortly after added full self-driving when they had a deal.
Nice.
And this picture is taken at one of the Tesla owners' East Bay meetups right near the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. So there was another event actually today, but there've been some fun events. So I'm up to 43,000 miles on mine right now. So in
Ooh.
under 2 years, and before this I had a Mazda 3, so kind of similar naming, but completely different car. And that I was driving like 6,000 miles a year. So this is at least like 4 times more than I'm used to driving. Granted, autopilot's doing a lot of the work, but I've definitely enjoyed the whole ride.
Yeah, I'm sure you're putting pedal to the metal.
Yes.
Have a performance Model 3, man. Come on.
Yeah, well, yes. Every signal, every stop sign, you have to do that if you're at the front.
Yeah. It'd be nice if you could actually pull up your side mirror while you're doing that. It kind of blowing that invisible smoke into the gas vehicle's face, eh?
Well, I did get mud,
Oh, wow.
so I won't kick any rocks back at people.
No. All right. Awesome. Thanks for that, Mark. Beautiful vehicle. I think it's Midnight Silver Metallic represent here.
Nice.
Glen is MSM too.
This is Rocinante, named after the infamous spaceship in the book series and the television series, The Expanse. This was taken. I've had it since 2018, September 2018. It was probably one of the first all-wheel drive Model 3s in Calgary, and this was taken about a year ago, just after I had the Stealth PPF put on it. So it was nice and shiny, and it took a very nice photo, and I have that as my background on one of my computers.
Looks absolutely awesome. Great.
That's what stealth means. Okay, I get it now. Sorry, I just had no idea what people meant when they said white on white stealth. I just had no clue, and I didn't know enough. I didn't want to ask.
Stealth.
I just feigned ignorance, and I just continued. But thanks, good to know, and the viewers know as well now. Awesome. Just a little bit of background. I think Glen was my first Tesla buddy in town.
That's right.
And every time I see this car on the road, it's just magic. Like, I know Glen's driving. Yeah. All right. Glen, your video is stuck for some reason.
Am I? Oh.
Yeah.
Is it okay on the YouTube stream?
No, it's stuck.
It's stuck.
Is my audio okay?
Your audio is fine. Your video is stuck, though.
Oh. Let me,
all right. There we go. Nash, you're up next.
Right here. This is my three Teslas. The Model X is Superman, and the Model S is Wonder Woman. So it's a his and her car. My wife and I both drive Teslas. We've been blessed. We worked hard for it. We worked for about 3-4 years to get it in, and we had very important reasons. My daughter is a childhood asthmatic, and we just couldn't find what was causing her the allergies. And then we narrowed it down to the fuel fumes. So ever since we went all EV, we have not had to look back. So it's been very good. And the inspiration is because Superman and Wonder Woman are the ultimate superhero comic pair ever. I know a lot of Marvel fans are out there, but I'm an old schooler DC fan, so it's Superman and Wonder Woman for me. The Amazonian princess, as they call her. And the Model 3 is actually an investment. So it is to get more bums on seats, as we call it here, as we say here in Australia. So it's called Tesla Gong 1, and it's an investment, and I'm now exclusively renting it out via a platform called ev.com.au, very similar to Turo in the US. So I do not have that car with me here. It's in Canberra, and somebody or the other is always renting it out. I place all my FSD sorry, not FSD, the Supercharger credits on the car so that people who hire the car don't have to pay for Superchargers either. So it's at the lowest possible cost. So I'm just letting it out for break-even cost, just to get more bums on seats. And I hope to get more and more Model 3s so that I get more people to try the cars and then buy them eventually, fingers crossed.
That's awesome, Nash. I mean, that's fantastic of you to actually get a vehicle solely with the purpose of renting it out to get more bums and seats. I mean, that's awesome.
I did it on a hunch, to be honest, and people have been extremely kind. I must say, people who are hiring the car have been so kind. They've taken the car, they've taken care of it like they're taking care of their own cars. And I have converted 4 people, so I'm happy. It's a happy journey. So I bought the car in June of this month, June of last year. So since June, I've been having June of this year. Sorry, it was June of this year. So since June, that car has been doing its rounds in Canberra and Sydney circuit. So it's good fun.
Awesome. You know, that's a great idea. I mean, especially for people, I mean, you know, to Michael's point in the comments as well, for people with respiratory disorders, to be able to, you know, it would be fantastic if Tesla were to be able to add that HEPA filter in all its different sizes, in all the vehicles, and upcharge the customers. That's fine, but at least it blocks out 99.9%. It's hospital grade, and
absolutely,
worldwide, all countries have different natures of issues, you know, and pollution being.
I have to add one point. I mean, I'm not to be a tearjerker here. So my daughter used to suffer for years on years. We just couldn't find what was happening, and we used to travel with handheld ventilators because we didn't know when the attack would come. And ever since we went EV 2 years ago, we've had she's been completely symptom free. So.
Nash, we have a question.
On
the front.
There's no particular order. The S is parked on the left because you can see the door just behind there. So the S is parked there because the Mrs. gets the preference. So it's the Mrs.'s car is closest to the door. I get to park anywhere. I get to park anywhere away from the door. So that is why it's parked that way.
Very good answer.
Yeah, so happy life, happy wife, happy life.
Perfect. All right, great. Okay, so this is my vehicle. The Japanese call it Binamez. At least that's the pronunciation in the anime 00 Gundam, which I've been a fan of for a long time. And it just made sense because this is a 2020 Model Y and come with FSD. The reason for the naming behind this vehicle was think of Gundams as mobile armor suits. There are 4 Gundams, each one has its own function. I picked this one because it is the only one with a small little AI called Haro that's job is to protect the operator of the Gundam, whose name is Lock-on Stratos, because he can lock on to a target from the stratosphere, from enemy. The AI reminded me a lot of Autopilot, whose job is to basically get us from point A to point B with FSD Beta safely. So that was the inspiration. I was thinking of naming it after one of the Transformers, but the Gundam preference. I think the next Tesla will be a Transformer name. Anyway,
I must say,
Cybertruck.
Very quickly. I thought I wanted to name the Model 3 after an anime series as well, a Japanese anime series. I'm not sure if you guys know of Messenger Z. It's a very, very old 1987, 1988, absolutely awesome series. I loved it. Messenger Z, and I wanted to name my Model 3 as Messenger Z, but then I decided, okay, Tesla Gong 1, and then fingers crossed, if I get another one, it'll be Tesla Gong 2, 3, 4. I hope I get 20.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And I've had my Model Y, sorry, for about 3.5 months. I just hit the 10,000 kilometer mark, and so far so good. No complaints. I actually traded in my Model 3 SR Plus that I had last year for the Model Y because it just made sense for me and my family. But hats off to Elon and to Tesla. I think this is going to be a real fast seller, and I can see why now. Anyway, moving on. Autopilot 2019. Let's go. We had 2019, September 26th is when Tesla announced V10. That came with all these new and happy features for Tesla customers with the FSD package and without the FSD package. I think it was Glen and I, we woke up in the middle of the night when it was smart summon time. I think Glen posted a tweet at 2 a.m. or something.
In the parking lot of Canadian Tire.
Yes, that is correct. Or Co-op. Co-op.
No, it's Canadian Tire.
Is that right? Okay. Anyway, so here's the new things that were introduced back almost more than a year ago. Mark, you're up. What do you see? What do you see today? How exciting is it to see the FSD beta?
There's probably like 3 different sections that I saw. So one was in your neighborhood type thing. I would say that was where it was the most impressive from what I saw. I mean, it's still in beta, keep that in mind, but like it was able to do a lot of things that at least Autopilot can't do right now in production. So first of all, you could start Autopilot anywhere. So you didn't have to have like a lane line. You don't have to be moving. You don't have to do anything. You just turn on Autopilot and it just does what it's going to do. And then also, it always was aware of where the center line was, even when there was no paint on there. So it looks like it was really aware of the sidewalks or the barriers, so that from there it could deduce what the line was, even when there was no line on the road. It also wasn't afraid of like going over the center line if it needed to. So like in a really packed street where maybe it's only 3 cars wide and there's cars parked on either side, it was really comfortable either waiting for a car coming the other direction to go through or going ahead and making it through there, pausing where there's an opening for the other car to go through, and then continuing. So it did that really well, and it was also really like cautious, so it was able to stop when it came to like a T intersection, look both ways, and then go, all in a neighborhood setting. So that I thought was really impressive, and it avoided any kind of obstacle. So if some cars were sticking out more, some cars were sticking out less. There was a case where we had a person and a dog in the road, just, you're not moving, but just there. And the car clearly moved out of the way to give them some space and then kept going. It didn't go over the speed limit. So it maintained that, which is common to Autopilot today anyways. But
Wow.
it's really impressive in the neighborhoods. I don't know if that's where they're doing a lot of testing, but it like really didn't encounter any issues in neighborhoods. And then that's kind of the first section. The second section was, because John from Tesla Owners Silicon Valley was really gracious with his time. So he just kept plugging in different destinations all around town. And we just kept, okay, let's try this and let's try that. So we started in residential. We went to the downtown area, which you can imagine is quite a bit busier. And it really didn't have any issues. I mean, it did left turns, right turns. It stopped when there was stop signs, as you would expect. And then it's not like you had to do any kind of confirmation like you have to right now. It just waited. If there was a car going, it waited for that, or it just went after it made a complete stop. Same with signals too. So it also was able to see pedestrians, and in a few cases we had it wait for pedestrians on the sidewalk. Also pedestrians walking across a crosswalk. We were turning left and they were crossing, and the car waited until they finished crossing before it went.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'd say one of the biggest differences that I noticed was the visualization. Even though we know they changed it to be a little bit boxier, it was all real time, which I think the current Autopilot is a little bit delayed, but it was all real time and it saw everything. So it had no issues like seeing things. It saw debris, it saw people, dogs. I mean, it didn't visualize them with a dog, but it just saw there's an object here, it's moving, it's in front of me, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
And other vehicles. So the downtown went pretty well. I would say maybe one of the areas where it could improve a little bit was some of the areas of the downtown were a little bit older. So like it maybe stopped a little bit early for the signal. And then when it continued, it had to go forward a little bit more and then make a right turn, for example. into like a really thin street. So still able to do that, but it's just, I don't know if it was a confidence level or just took it more cautiously, which maybe people might do too, but some area that I could see them making it a little bit more human-like in the future. And
now, Mark, I have to ask this question because otherwise my Aussie mates are going to kill me. How does FSD work in the roundabouts? Because we have roundabouts for every 30 seconds here. We have roundabouts everywhere. We have roundabout, and then we drive for exactly 30 seconds, and we have another roundabout, and then another 30 seconds we have like 10 roundabouts, and we just roundabouting everywhere.
I don't think we actually encountered one. I don't know if that was just kind of dumb luck or not. We did yield right turns, which that's not really a roundabout, but it's kind of similar where you would have to look at oncoming traffic on the left, and then you make your right turn, which you just slow down for. So we did encounter that, but there weren't a ton of roundabouts where we were, so I didn't really get to see that.
Okay. And what about hilly terrain? So we have a very hilly terrain here in most of our roads. Most of our estates are either in at the top of the hill or the bottom of the hill. So we had to go up the hill before we reach the exit of the estate. We call them estate. Does that estate make sense to you? Estate is the highway, No, estate is the place where the houses are. What's the estate?
Residential.
Yeah, residential area. So each residential area is called an estate. So we have to go up the hill to the end of the estate, and then we take the exit from the estate to reach the highway. So how does FSD work on hilly terrain?
So it did completely fine, and there was actually kind of a similar scenario where it was coming from a residential area, and then it had to turn at a stop sign to the right. It had to turn onto oncoming traffic, which was going like, let's say 45 miles per hour. So maybe 60 kilometers per hour, something like that.
Yeah, that's good. That's impressive speed, yeah.
So it stopped completely, and there were cars coming, and it waited for all of those, which I don't know how it could see that. I mean, it's kind of hard to see. I was in the middle seat of the Model X, but it stopped, waited, maybe like 3 cars went by. There was another car really far in the distance, and it still decided, okay, this is safe to do. It took the right turn, and it took it pretty confidently. So like a human might kind of just ease into it and then maybe make the other car slow down for them. But this just got right up to speed and was able, that was probably one of the most impressive ones, because sometimes people kind of like cut each other off. But car was able to make a complete stop, wait really when it was not safe to go, and then once it was safe, it took the turn, which that there's not, like, the current autopilot definitely does not do that. So that was a huge change.
Okay.
You never really, like, I would say the difference between current autopilot is you're pretty, if you've driven with autopilot a lot, you pretty much know, like, these are the parameters. At most, it's gonna like do a lane change, something like that. Otherwise, it pretty much stays in its lane. This one was kind of like all the possibilities are out there. Like, it can decide, like, you don't know, is it gonna go? Is it not gonna go? It just doesn't.
Is it more tentative than not, or how does it work?
I would say it's not more tentative. The only time when I saw it was a little bit more tentative was when there were a lot of cars on the road. That's when it was like, okay, I'll make a slower decision. But when there were like clear breaks between vehicles, it was like, okay, this is a very confident move. I'm just going to go and do it.
Nice. Okay, that's nice.
So,
but that is scary too, isn't it? That is scary too.
I was not really sure what to think initially, because I mean, I'd only seen the videos on YouTube, and okay, this looks really cool. And then I got there, I was like, I'm not used to autopilot making these decisions for me. So
I know. It's a little unnerving, isn't it?
Yeah, but it did definitely make them safely, so I wasn't really worried from that perspective. But just like, I've never seen autopilot do that before, and it just did it.
Now, what really came to my mind when I saw one of the first videos of autopilot is I'm sure most of you guys have watched Westworld. So Westworld season 3. So it's set in the future, and they have these autonomous cars. Oh, they look amazing. And I was like, the cars make the decisions to weave between traffic, and I was like, wow, if the FSD does that, that'll be just phenomenal.
From what I saw, I mean, it looks like it's constantly making decisions in real time. So like more so than what current autopilot does. So this was like there was a few scenarios where there was some construction and there were some cones on the road, and it clearly you could feel the car turning a little bit more just to avoid the cone area, and then create a new lane for it to follow through the cone. So not following the lines on the road, but following the cones, which is what a human should do. But like that's unheard of. Like Autopilot doesn't do that right now.
Yes, that's true. Current Autopilot will completely fail at those instances.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, construction roads. We have a lot of construction roads here, and we're lined by cones. I mean, the roads are lined by the lanes are lined by cones. So that's really cool if it does that. If it really does, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I saw a couple of videos. I think Kim's video was out there, which showed the cone, the navigation through the cones. That was really awesome too.
So we definitely ran into a few cone scenarios, and it was really clear that the car was aware of it and that it was making space for it. So that definitely added some confidence to me, who had never experienced it before. Because if it had gotten like current Autopilot, it would probably prompt you with a message saying, "Do you want to move the lane over?" Or in the case where it's cutting off a lane, like you need to take over. So this didn't really stumble at all in the cone area. So that was definitely a plus.
Okay.
One thing I'm most excited.
One last question. Sorry, Glen.
No, go ahead.
One last question is, I'm not sure if you've seen this ever. There is a very interesting turn in Melbourne, particularly it is very specific to Melbourne. It's called the hook turn. So if you want to take the right, so we drive on the right side. We have the steering wheel on the right side. If you want to turn to your right, you have to go and park in a single space in the middle of the road, and you just have to wait there for the signal to turn. And there's a hook turn signal that comes up, and then you turn right from the left. So you go to the left of the road, you stand on the left, you wait in the middle of the intersection. So it's a plus. Let's say it's a plus intersection. So there is a space where you can see the hook turn. So that is the that is the Melbourneian hook turn. So you can see that on the right side. So you're gonna have to go and stay on the left side of the road. Let the cars going straight keep passing. So they won't be bothering you. The cars that are turning left will keep passing, so they won't be bothering you. So you'll be in the middle of the road, in the middle of the intersection, basically. And you have to wait there for your hook turn signal to come through, and then you take the right. I don't think the FSD can do that. I mean, not yet. Definitely not yet.
I don't think I've ever seen that in the US. So
no, it's very. I don't know what the Victorians are doing. Sorry. I'm going to get flack for that. I'm going to get a lot of flack for that.
Yeah, we did not encounter that.
Oh, man.
No, this will be something. We want to test that. That's the first thing everybody's going to test.
Hey, Glenn, don't we have something similar here? 162nd Ave, where they did that new thing. It's called something, right? Diverging diamond.
That's a interchange that they have. It kind of crisscrosses. So it's called Divergent Diamond Interchange.
So this is what we have, and you got to go on the wrong side of the road to get to the right side, and that's just crazy. It's apparently
it crisscrosses.
Yeah,
that image right in the middle. That's probably the best visualization of that. Yeah.
This is the magic, where people are going from the right side to the wrong side, and then going back to the right side. That'll be fun for FSD, I think.
Well, it's got lights and it's very well marked. So there's not a little square that you have to stop in to make that hook turn or whatever you call that.
Yes.
I don't think we have that in the US, but the closest is if there's a high traffic zone, then sometimes there's a center divider that will move to give the more heavy traffic side more lanes. So it'd kind of be like you're driving in the wrong lane, so to speak. But those are generally only for big cities.
I think it was based on a city in the US, Mark. It was. I think there's only a couple of cities in the world that have it, and I think I'm not sure. I might be wrong, but somewhere in Texas, I think it was, or somewhere else. But
man, this one is crazy ass. Oh my god!
It sounds it.
It's pretty. That summarizes it pretty well. Anyway.
So I'd say, in terms of the closest that I saw to that, I would say definitely the current Autopilot. So not FSD Beta, but current Autopilot has certain rules it follows that it will never break. Current Autopilot will never cross the center line, pretty much. I've never. But for FSD Beta, it seems like it'll assess the situation, and if it needs to cross the center line, it will do that. So I could see easily that it could do these other maneuvers, given that it really doesn't have the constraints that current autopilot does. It can, if that's programmed as a decision point, then it can make that decision.
I have a question for you, Mark. How, in this new FSD beta, first question, because I'm not aware, there's so much confusion going on, does it include the Autopilot Rewrite?
I believe, I mean, it doesn't say that written anywhere, but I believe that's true because it pretty much just gives you the smart summon view, but with more detail.
Okay.
So that's the full view of everything that's going on in the scene in real time, like in a 3D vector space.
Right.
So that's how I think we could determine that it is the rewrite, because it sees a lot more.
Do you see any aspects of the time element with full self-driving? So let me explain to you. There was a video I saw very recently where I understood the concept of time. So the idea is basically for Autopilot to have a memory of what it's seen. You know, I mean, yes, it's identifying things in real time, but I mean, the simplest way I can put it for the viewers is, if this is a cup, and if I see an image of a cup for the first time, when I see a new cup, I know it's a cup already. Like preemptively, I know it's a cup that I'm looking at. I don't have to process, I mean, or maybe I process it so fast that it's almost like, you know, you recall from memory. Like, I guess that's the idea of the time component to the 4 dimensions, is you have a history of what you've seen, and that history kind of augments what you see, and you can reach a decision faster without having to reframe the box, if you will, and figure out what that thing is. Like, if you see a cat, you know it's a cat, like for all future instances. Do you see any instances of that?
I didn't see anything where it showed that it had memory, but I did see cases where it seemed like it was a lot faster than Autopilot. Like the visualizations, you didn't see any kind of like dancing. Like, you know, sometimes you might see a truck come in and come out a little bit on current Autopilot. For FSD Beta, you didn't see anything like that. Everything was very exact, and it seemed like you looked there, that's exactly what you saw. There was no delay. It was all real time.
Do you think there was a higher bandwidth feed that they were projecting to the screen?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And those voxels they put on top of the objects that are, you know, that the FSD computer sees, the colors are constant, are they? I've been trying to figure that out because I wanted to know the reason being. So let's say the car saw a let me phrase it properly so that the viewers also understand. So let's say the car sees an ambulance. Okay, let's say it sees an ambulance, and it's marked it with a color. Let's say purple. That's how it comes, isn't it? When it marks these moving objects, it marks it as purple. And let's say it sees another exactly same looking Benz van, but it's got a trailer attached to it. Will it mark it as 2 separate objects, or will it mark it as one single object? Do you get my point? So let's say
I didn't see anywhere it got the objects wrong. So it seemed like it always had them distinct. So you could tell.
Awesome.
They were just boxes, so they didn't render them. So I couldn't tell, you know, if it was a truck or like a car, like you can see in the current Autopilot. They moved it all to the boxes, so you can just see the exact dimensions. So that looked correct to me. I didn't see anything that seemed wrong there. But it definitely seemed like it was more responsive.
Actually, I was just going to say, you raised a really good question. I wonder if anybody's had a test scenario yet where there is a police car or an ambulance or a fire truck behind them, where the car, FSD, recognizes that and then pulls over safely to let them pass. I don't know if that'd be really cool if somebody's had that test case.
Yeah, that'd be amazing to know. Yeah.
John was mentioning, John, who Model X was driving me around, he was mentioning that there is a color scheme that Tesla tells them about. So I think it was something like if cars are in front, or if an object is in front of you, it's green. If it's on the side of you, it's blue. Things like that. So I don't know exactly what they all are, but the medians are a certain color, debris is a certain color, that kind of thing. Police cars, ambulances. It could tell that they're vehicles. I don't know if it knew that.
That was just me. That was just me putting it on there for the viewers so that they'd understand what we were talking about. To Glen's point, to Glen's question.
Yeah.
In Waymo, there was one video where it actually showed that with like sirens on and stuff.
Yeah.
I think because Tesla switched it, at least for the beta users, to show the bounding boxes instead of the actual vehicles, it's hard to know what it interprets, but we know that it interprets a vehicle there. So I don't know if it was police or not.
Yeah, so if any of you... If any
Sorry,
people
go ahead.
have the FSD Beta out there, go drive around and chase police cars and ambulances and see if it behaves properly.
Yeah,
Drive
just
around.
Let us know.
just drive around hospitals. That's you definitely run into it. Oh yeah, I had another question. Now, what is the? I really did keep asking this of Elon, and he never answered this question though. So, do you see that the tolerance level between cars when the cars are traveling in parallel is different in the new FSD beta? Because now it'll be center median, but most of us would like to stay slightly off midline.
Yeah.
In Australia, we'll be off midline to the right. You'll probably be off midline to the left, preferentially as humans. But Autopilot always keeps the middle of the road. Sometimes it can be a little unnerving because there's another trailer with a huge boat at the back, which is towing a boat, and the boat has some side flanges which are probably we're nearly going to hit that when we pass the car. So it's a little unnerving sometimes.
I would say that was one of the things. Like my two favorite things are that you can start it anywhere. Like you can drive into like a Target parking lot and just start it, and it will figure out how to get out of there. And the second one is that it's really, like to Nash's point, it's really aware of everything around it. So for the first time I saw it actually, if some car was kind of close on this side, it would actually give it more space. So at all times it gave it more space, whether that was a cone, a car, a person, anything. So it would not necessarily, you could argue it wouldn't be as smooth because it would give people space if they were going over the edge. But you probably feel more comfortable because you're not coming within inches of this car. So I really like that as a plus, and I can't wait till that comes to Autopilot.
I have seen that my vehicles, this is with the Model 3 SR Plus that I had and now the Model Y, they always swerve. They always swerve when there's a tractor trailer going by.
Oh.
They always swerve a little bit. I'm deliberately watching for that swerve maneuver because I knew
there was an
update.
Yeah, there was an update that was supposed to implement that.
Yes, and it always swerves, Nash. I'm surprised that you don't see it there in Australia, but my car swerves out of the way of something that it recognizes as a truck or a trailer.
Okay.
It swerves to the left in the lane. Doesn't keep dead center.
It doesn't do it. I mean, I've not seen that do it on the. Okay, I had to preface this. I have hardware 2.5, so I don't have 3.0. Maybe my friends who have 3.0 will probably tell me about. I'm eligible for the 3.0 update because I have FSD on both the cars, but I have not seen that. The Model 3 has 3.0, but I don't have the Model 3. I don't drive the Model 3, so I wouldn't know.
I'm not 100% certain, but I think that where it gives the trucks a little bit more space, that's specific only to really large vehicles, and I think it might be navigated on Autopilot only. So once you have that turned on, or is it it might be Autopilot as well?
It is Autopilot. It is Autopilot because a lot of times when I know that my path is just dead center, I'm going straight in a straight line. I just don't even bother with navigate on Autopilot because I know that I got to take the exit anyway. Or maybe that navigate on Autopilot fails at that particular exit. I know that interchange it's going to fail, so I just stick to standard Autopilot all the way till I just have to manually take over. But I do notice this is on Deerfoot Trail here in Calgary. It definitely shifts to the left and then back again because I'm specifically looking for that.
Yeah.
And I see it, that the visualization will move a little bit to the left in the Autopilot and then back again. So, Nash, you could be right. It could be a hardware 2.5 to 3.0 because I have 3.0.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
And that totally makes sense for it to be faster in processing. But that seems like a weird feature to leave out of a market.
Yeah. And that I would say like that swerving, because I drive a lot of like two-lane roads that are in one direction. There's a lot of trucks on the right lane, and I would say it definitely felt different in FSD Beta because in my regular Autopilot, when that happens, it's almost like, okay, the car has planned this. There's a truck there, therefore you know when it gets this close, it's going to move to the left. Once it finishes going past the truck, it goes back to the right. Versus FSD Beta seemed like when it encounters something, it decides to move over, and once it passes that, it goes back. So even if it's a small car or anything that seems like it's close to the car moves over a little. It seemed much safer in my opinion because
that's awesome.
It was really mindful of the space. And it would also, also veer to the right, which is different. Like current Autopilot won't do that. So this really it's almost like there's a bubble around the car. Like it was trying to stay as safely away from cars as it could.
It's personal space.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Guys, let's look at these different features that have come out over the years, and let's see if there's anything that stands out for you, Mark, from what I know we've discussed, I think, a lot of these already. Smart Summon. Has Summon gotten better?
John mentioned that, but I didn't actually encounter it firsthand, so I'm not really sure.
That's something to look out for. Okay.
I guess that it would be probably better, but yeah, I didn't really encounter it.
I want to do a self plug here, but only for purposes of education. When Smart Summon came to Australia, 4 of us, so we have another podcast called Phantom Lane 4. 4 of us, Sally and Rob, Adam, and then Tom and I, all of us, we took our Teslas. We went to an empty parking lot next to Sydney Airport, and we tried Smart Summon. It was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. Adam's car would just go. It would take its own route by itself. It'll take the scenic route, and it'll go somewhere else. So what we did was we did 3 tests. One is we did a quarter mile race. So we kept the cars far away, a quarter mile away, and then we all stood in straight line, in direct line of sight. So it was called Smart Summon Smackdown in my channel. So it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. So we did a quarter mile, and then we did walk the dog. So we just stood behind the cars and just walked the dog, and then we did one more test. We did like nearly not a mile. It was just again a quarter mile, but it was with us not letting go of the Smart Summon at all, because back then we had to hold it down for Smart Summon to happen, and it was hilarious. We had 2 near misses. And I was actually driving my missus's car, so I was thinking, okay, doghouse for me from today. If this car hits, it's doghouse. I'm not getting back into the house. That much I said.
You have to sleep in your car.
Yeah, that's it.
There was a comment made earlier today at the Tesla Energy Site meetup, which was kind of to the effect of that Smart Summon is kind of like FSD slow speed. So I think that's probably true. So Tesla wanted to get that out even earlier, but they just put a speed limit on it. And then, okay, that worked pretty well in parking lots. Now we have some real world data to compare against. Now we can go with the regular speed limits. So
all right, so we have a question from a Hill from Oz. And the question was regarding, just a second. Where was that?
While you're looking for the question, I was just going to say, Nash, you should do a bit of a shout out here for our friend Mark, the backseat baller. Should have a chariot race where everybody's in the back seat and somebody.
That'll be awesome.
Oh man,
that's something which we did on the video as well. So we called it walk the dog. So we just stood behind the cars and
sit in the back seat.
That'll be amazing. We'll do it. Let's do it.
Shout out to Mark, the backseat baller.
Okay, I'll definitely tell this to the guys. I'm sure they'll be up for it.
Absolutely.
So we'll be like Bond from that movie. Which one is that? Which version is that? Pierce Brosnan one. So he'll be in the back seat of his Beamer, and he'll be doing that. Oh, that is a cool thing. Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, so has FSD Beta fixed phantom braking?
That's an important question.
Yeah, phantom braking, we didn't encounter it. So it was only about an hour and like 15 minutes of driving. We didn't encounter that any time. So I don't know if it's fixed, but we didn't encounter it. So phantom braking, at least is in terms of current autopilot, what I've experienced, it's generally on like a freeway, and we didn't really go on a freeway. So I'm not sure if it's specific to higher speeds or something else or overpasses, but it didn't happen in town or in residential or on like side streets. So I'm not sure if it's fixed or not, but we just didn't encounter it.
I have a video to show you guys, and I want to know if this is part of phantom braking. So this is me on my drive just the other day. Okay, there's a couple of things in this video. One, this is just on an exit ramp. Sorry, this is not yet at the exit ramp. Yeah. So I turn on autopilot. Okay, navigate on autopilot to my destination. And can you see it slowing down to 40? Yeah. There's no speed limit picked up. Nice. So that's one. Is that a phantom brake because it's repeated, and also it's repeatable? Is that a phantom brake, or is that? So that's the first thing. Or is that Mad Maps data?
Did you see if the max autopilot speed changed? Because I've encountered that before, where like when I'm switching
No.
freeways, max drops for some reason, and then it feels like it's like a giant hit on the brakes, but it's actually
Yeah, like if you go here, like if you see in any of the previous snaps, there is no speed limit recognized.
Okay.
There is no speed limit recognized, and it takes a while to recognize the lane. I turn on navigate on autopilot because it knows my end destination and it's able to work fine. But the problem is that it just slows down, and every time on this ramp, right?
I find that too, Kaushik, on exit ramps, and that's I usually actually disable it and take over at that point because it slows down so much that the traffic behind you would just get so annoyed that you know, you have to disengage it and take over and then speed up and then re-engage.
That's one. So I just wanted the viewers to see this kind of a scenario. So I hope FSD Beta works on that and hopefully fixes that, even when there's no speed limit. Like the next thing is, so here I'm getting onto the freeway. There's going to be an off ramp that shows up over here. Can you see the vehicle slowing down to 90? It did that by itself. It does that every single time when there's an off ramp exit that's going to happen. Okay, so I have to, and that can really fool the guy behind because it's not expecting me to break down 10 kilometers an hour. So that's one. And now here, I actually wanted to pause that. Yeah.
Just one moment. We just want to make a correction because viewers have pointed out that question was actually from Ashley of.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was Ashil from Oz. Sorry, my bad. It was my bad.
Bad.
Sorry, Ashley. I owe you a coffee, mate. Flat white it is.
Dog flat white. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like to also point out there's one that I've not discussed before though, is this kind of a situation. If you can see when this lane is gonna diverge, it's gonna end. Okay. Autopilot, I'm on navigate on autopilot. It doesn't signal left. It just continues to go straight on and hope the lane ends. Okay, I've noticed that every single time. This is when, and so what I do is I basically preemptively just indicate left and it just switches lanes and it goes into a full lane. Yeah. So in this case, I let it do its thing. You can see I didn't turn on the blinker. It just merges. Now what if someone's coming from behind? It's not indicating. My lane's ending, and what if someone's coming from behind? So that's one concern, right? Sorry?
I've encountered the same thing for my regular autopilot where both directions, either if you're the one merging or you're the one that someone's merging into, it doesn't seem like that is super aware of. You have to go down.
This is the edge case I want to know, Mark, whether it's been solved in FSD Beta. It's in one of our ByteofWhy channel videos as well. It's when a single lane diverges outward into two lanes.
True.
Okay. So you can see now, at this point, you can see that a second lane is starting. Okay. Now, as per navigate on autopilot, the car is supposed to just remain here, right? But what the car does, it tries to center between the two. It did that by itself, and I had to take over.
Yeah.
It centered, it tried to veer left. And if somebody's coming from behind me, that's like a no way. Like I wouldn't do that move myself, right? Just normally. But what I have noticed is that if you're in the outer lane and you merged right to take that exit, it does it fine. It has no problems with off ramps diverging off from the right-hand side. But when a road splits on the left into two lanes, it tries to readjust by doing that. So that's a shimmy that's not safe in my opinion. I
don't know if it's fixed by FSD Beta, but I would say I think the logic for FSD Beta is quite a bit different because current autopilot is really heavy direction from the lines versus FSD Beta seems to take very heavy direction from like the outer barriers or sidewalks or whatever. Take that first and secondarily the lines.
Hey, Kaushik, I just want to make a comment on a couple of things that you've discussed there. So I've experienced that too, where you're in one lane and then it splits off and there's an extra lane on the right. That happens a lot actually if you're driving from Calgary to Vancouver on the Coquihalla Highway.
Right.
There's an extra lane that opens up a lot of times for passing and that sort of thing, so slower vehicles can get to the right. And the first time I experienced that with Navigate on Autopilot going out to Vancouver, yeah, it was terrible. It would, like, every time that happened, the car would kind of like recenter itself, and you would have to take over. And then I think it was like maybe 2 months later when I was going back out again, there had been at least one, maybe two updates to the firmware at that point. It was perfect. It would just stay in the lane, even though there's one that opened up on the right. It would just stay in the lane that you're in. And so it definitely, from my experience, has improved in that area.
What about the slowing down part, though?
So the slowing down, what I was going to comment on there is I've watched a lot of James Locke, his FSD Beta videos.
Yes. And
I've noticed a number of times where he's on an exit ramp and he'll disengage because he's saying that there's people behind him and it's getting too slow. So I've noticed that a number of times with his videos. So yeah, those are the two comments that I want to make.
So I get that. I mean, from that perspective, when there's a ramp that's merging onto the highway, I think the right rule of law is that the person merging has preference, I think, which is why I've seen FSD, I mean, the autopilot slow down when it sees people merging into your lane. But
Yes. Merging into the highway, say we have a rule here as well. If I'm merging into a highway, if there's a car which is on that lane, they give me preference.
Yes, so I think it's a binary rule. Who has preference? It's not a matter of interpretation. It's just one has preference over the other kind of thing. But I'm just kind of wondering if the car is kind of confused on whether it's an off ramp or an on ramp based on where the lanes diverge out. I'm just wondering because it's behaving like the one that I showed in the video. It was a lane that actually split out from the main road. It's actually behaving like one that's joining into the main road, where you would actually slow down for oncoming traffic. I mean, merging traffic to let them in. It's behaving like that. Sorry, go ahead.
The markings of that road differ a little bit from what I've seen in like California, but there are similar cases where you have one lane and then it kind of has this little offshoot off either to the left or to the right, where it turns into two lanes. But it's not that kind of like V line. It's more of like the lane goes and then it widens out. And in my experience, it has usually chosen the correct lane. So like if it goes out on the left because that's a passenger lane, it'll continue forward because I have the HOV or high occupancy vehicle lane turned off on my setting. So it will continue straight. It'll even turn on a turn signal, even though that really doesn't make sense. And that's changed over updates. In one update, it stopped doing that. And then the next update, it came back again. So I'm not sure they may be working on that. But that's just regular autopilot. We didn't encounter that where it splits into two lanes with FSD Beta, but we did encounter the merging, and it seemed to do okay. We didn't really have any obstacles in the way, so it's kind of hard to say what it would have done. But when I've had obstacles on my current autopilot, it seems like what it's doing is it's just checking for, is there someone in front of me? If there's someone in front of me, I'm going to slow down. I don't know if it knows what's on the side of it. Probably FSD Beta does, but I don't think current autopilot knows what's on the side of it in terms of like a radar perspective.
We've got a question from Jay on the chat here. Four-way stop signs. How does FSD Beta handle that?
So we ran into a few different stop sign scenarios, like a few four-way and a few three-way. And it seemed like what it did was basically goes, obviously make a complete stop. It waits for like maybe half a second to a second. I don't know exactly what the logic is, but it seemed like that gave enough indication to the other person to go. So the other person went, and then the car went right after that. So I don't know if it's waiting for no activity or if it's waiting for the completion of activity, but it seemed like it did act like a human in that scenario. Like you wouldn't have been able to tell it was the computer because it kind of gave enough room for the action to stop, and then it went.
Interesting. So you would think it's a very common use case. It's not an edge case by any means. It's a very normal thing to see a four-way stop sign. So you would think it's part of their main algorithm handling use cases. Okay, sweet. Let's. I know we're running short for time. I know we said.
Actually, I just wanted to make a quick comment on phantom braking. I've noticed that there's been a little bit more phantom braking ever since they've implemented the stoplight visualization.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's
Yeah,
true.
any overpass, it seems to slow down to try to figure out if there's any lights that are hanging there or anything like that.
Yeah, and it's under. I mean, to be honest, it phantom braking is never a good experience, regardless.
No.
I mean, you're not looking for it. You never know when it's going to happen, and sometimes it can be innocuous, doesn't matter, but sometimes it can be dangerous. And
I think it depends on the scenario because, like, a lot of times we have some, like, if there's high traffic, there's signals on the freeways, like, to get on. But sometimes I've seen autopilot that out and see that signal, and if it's like flashing yellow, a person generally flashing yellow in the US at least means to slow down a little bit. So I don't know if it's trying to follow that, even though people aren't following
flashing yellow, man. Oh my God, I hate that. I hate it. It happens in this town so much because autopilot thinks of it as a signal.
Yeah.
And it sees the yellow and it starts braking. And that flashing yellow is quite a ways. It's still, I think, a kilometer or like at least 0.6 miles away from the actual stop sign. And another thing that also happens is it also catches over the road, the C train, they call it here, but trains, right?
Yeah.
They've got their traffic lights on the side for the gateways that open and close. It can see those and picks those up and tries to just brake all of a sudden. Oh my goodness.
We get that all the time. Yeah, so we get that scenario as well, where we have train tracks going through, crisscrossing through the middle of the road, and we have and it picks up that as a signal and it stops. That's one. Second one is we have these flashing yellow lights on our bridges. Most importantly, the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the other major bridges. We do have those flashing lights to indicate people, because there are multiple roads, and sometimes few of these roads are closed. The direction of the roads keep changing depending on the traffic and stuff like that. So in those scenarios, it shows the flashing light, and that's very scary. So those things do cause a lot of phantom braking. Tom from Ludicrous Feed and Adam from Teslastraya, both of are my mates. They have a lot of those videos where they showcase these urban autopilot challenges that the car does face in the current scenario. We don't have FSD yet.
Shout out to Tesla Tom's Ludicrous Feed and Teslastraya. Awesome videos with autopilot. Michael, yes, you are correct. I think what Michael says here in his comment is the exact same scenario in the video that I'm showing. Is when the lane widens with a new lane marking, it tries and about to split, it goes down the middle. That's exactly. So that's a pretty. If it's a known fact, you would think that the iterative updates we would get for FSD would fix it. You think?
My guess is that it might depend on how that split happens, because sometimes it's pretty obvious, like these are the outer two lanes and these outer two lanes just got wider. But in some cases, it may not be super obvious. Like that Canadian V scenario you showed, I don't see that too often around here, probably because people would get confused by it.
Yeah.
Californians maybe can't understand that. I'm not sure.
Right.
So probably it's just not like acclimated to that type of scenario. But it does work for other scenarios where it widens. So I guess it's not used to seeing that.
Mark, I just had one question around your experience with the FSD beta. Did you happen to go through any school zones or playground zones, and did it pick up those signs to slow down? Here it's 30 kilometers where you have to slow down to go through a school or a playground zone. I know with the current update that we have, in certain scenarios it does recognize that we have and shows the speed limit, but it doesn't know when it ends because it doesn't pick up, end of school zone or end of playground zone. So I'm just wondering if you experienced that with the FSD beta.
I believe it was the same behavior where we went through a few zones that were kind of like slower speed school zones, like around a park. And it seemed like when it saw a new sign, then that's what the speed limit was. And so very similar to what we have right now. So I don't think there's a change there. So as it sees a new sign, it picks up that speed instead.
But did it know when it ended though?
No, so it just kept whatever speed that it saw left.
Okay.
One more thing is it could be time sensitive because school zones have a particular time.
Yeah.
And if you drive outside of that time period, it may ignore it.
Yeah.
It may ignore it.
In the US, sometimes they say like it's only 15 miles per hour if children are present. So that's
another variant of school zones, like when children are present and also when during a time window, right? Yeah. So that's interesting, actually. If you get a chance to speak to the FSD beta testers, is try this out during
during the daytime when school zones are active, like on a weekday, like not today and tomorrow, but Monday through Friday kind of thing. And outside of the school zone window, and kind of just test if the FSD is aware of the time. Because there's a lot of different conditions in the US. Like you have different speed limits for heavy vehicles and regular cars. You've got different speed limits for when children present, when children not present, and when school zone active, when school zone not active. Like here we have school zones and playground zones. Some of them are 24/7, 365. Some of them are only between 9 and I think 7:30 to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So it should be, if it's going to drive me from point A to point B at 10 p.m. at night, it shouldn't really bother about a school zone. It should keep that 50 kilometer an hour speed limit, right? So
I want to add a small scenario to giving the Aussie perspective. So when our school zone ends, we invariably have another speed sign which says what that speed for the next X kilometers is going to be. So we invariably have another one. So the car does pick that up and change the speed. So that one thing is not present in Australia too much. Sometimes those speed signs either fall down due to the wind or something like that, and then that's an issue. The second thing is we want the beta testers to know is the car must not slow down, even if it is school timing when it's a school holiday, because then the people behind us are going to get pissed mad. They're going to say, "Oh no, it's school holidays, you moron! Why are you slowing down?" So they have to work that in to know what the school holidays timings are and work that into this one. Otherwise, it makes no sense. Your car can't go at 40 kilometers. 40 it's mostly 40 for us. 40 kilometers an hour on during school holidays, and people behind are going to they're going to lose it.
And I'm not sure about that exact school scenario, but we did encounter a scenario where, so you're in a residential, which is 25 miles per hour, and then it was turning onto a main road, and there wasn't a speed limit sign right where we were turning, but it still got up to the right speed. So my guess is there's still some maps data in there somewhere. It's not just vision, but it's just if it encounters a speed limit sign, then it's going to adjust to that.
Do you know which gets preference? Is it visual confirmation or the maps data?
From what I've encountered, not on FSD Beta, just on my regular, it seems like it's what it sees visually.
Okay.
What it changes the visual representation to, but like if you're on a highway, you can always override that.
Nice.
I think the FSD Beta is going to focus heavily on the vision side, versus the map side. I think the map side is a crutch, and eventually I think it'll all be vision based. And also with my recent tweets about the LiDAR. I mean, sorry, not the LiDAR. Sorry, there is no LiDAR on Tesla vehicles. Pseudo LiDAR. The front radar on my Model Y acting up in the snow. It seems Tesla's fixed it in a subsequent update because it started performing better and along lines. But it also brings to fact that the more they depend on the radar to detect, distance from vehicles in front, the more they're going to be handcuffed, because if that radar gets blocked by snow or ice or something, it's not going to be able to do that depth distance measurements that the autopilot system needs. So it would be in their best interest to revert to all their cameras to basic. But from what I understand, measuring of depth in a 2D image is extremely difficult, and it's state of the art. It's still being worked on. Depth measurement in a two-dimensional picture.
I think it's safe to say, though, that Tesla is working on that, because like when we've seen some of those FSD Beta videos, the visualization of like the center dividers or the sidewalks, those are really accurate, and we don't have sideways radar. So definitely they're doing that type of like pseudo LiDAR with their vision.
Yeah.
Those were really accurate lanes from what I saw.
Actually, Mark, I have a question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I experienced this today with my wife. We were driving to a shopping center here, and I had autopilot on, and there was red light up ahead, and there's cars stopped already, and it did not start slowing down until it was, somewhat close, and so you really felt that hard braking. With the FSD Beta, did you notice that it was a lot smoother in that braking?
Yeah, we didn't encounter any cases where it really had to slam on the brake. So maybe they've adjusted that to make it a little bit smoother, or it's just maybe it's reevaluated sooner potentially.
Right.
Do you know, Glen, if it was Do you think it was slowing down due to the signal or due to the cars in front of you?
I would say, well, that's a good question because it was a red light that we were approaching. And the reason why it was a bit of I was thinking it's going to be a bit of concern is it's snowing here. Once the roads start getting a little icy, that harder braking, it might hit a patch of ice and it might not be able to stop in time. So I'm just wondering if it has a better recognition on that, red light, vehicle stopped ahead and starts easing that braking a little sooner.
Yeah, I mean, there were some cases where it was a little more choppy and then some cases where it was smoother. So I think they're still working on that. The cases where we saw that it was kind of tentative was when it was trying to fit into a little bit of a smaller area. So like there's one video where John posted where it was making a left. I was in the car at that point and it did a left across some traffic and it slowed down a little bit because it was getting exactly into the left turn lane properly.
Oh, okay.
So probably that might have, you could argue that was hesitation, but it's kind of hard to say. It made the turn, but it wanted to be exactly in the right spot. So it did a little bit slower.
Yeah, I'm really going to be interested in seeing how FSD Beta handles the Canadian winters here because lane markings are definitely going to be covered. They pile up the snow on the curbed lanes, so it's hard to see really the curbs. Although I'm sure the cameras and the sensors will pick up that there's a snowbank, but a lot of times the lane markings are covered by snow and that sort of thing. So
my guess would be like, I know I've seen it in some places like Tahoe in the US, but in Canada, do you guys normally have like the either 6 foot or 10 foot poles on the side of the road that kind of has like a reflector on it? So you can kind of see if the snow is really high. You still see like a reflector on the edges a little bit?
Not
there are
to my knowledge.
some, but not a lot. No.
Okay.
No.
Because I think if it can assess like these are the boundaries, then it'll be able to figure out everything else. So then the real question is, can see a snowbank is a boundary?
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get that FSD beta soon and we can try that out and experiment.
There was a photo by someone on Twitter today. I think it was shout out to Tesla YEG. And that was this is what the average road would look like. All right. Like, and
piece of cake,
right? Like this is what a non-snowy on a non-snowy day. You can imagine this with a blue sky, and just the roads will be absolutely like a sheet of glass with no signs. It's like a skating rink. So FSD Beta hashtag, like, please send this to Canada for this exact use case because this is almost every day of the next 6 months for us. Like.
Well, from what I've seen, at least with my current autopilot, it seems like it tries to figure out lanes using a lot of different cues. So like potentially using other cars, potentially using like, in this case, you can see there are some little bit darker, straighter lines in the road. So I think it tries to pick up on all of that. And in the case of a little bit up ahead, you can see there's some grass showing. So definitely it would pick up that color differential.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't center itself between the edges of what its boundaries are and go dead center.
Well, you know, that happens, right? Because you'll get those lanes where the tires, you know, everybody drives. So is it going to be like in the middle?
You know, I think the approach that they can take is the approach they take when you're between two traffic lights, okay? There's no markings in between two sets of traffic lights. Think of an intersection. There's no direct markings between. Like we have a lot of them here, where you have a set of traffic lights. The lane line for the stopping line stops there. There's a gap because that's usually where the traffic would merge in. There's a gap there, right? And then you have the lines for the next stretch of road. So I've seen Autopilot perform beautifully. It will extrapolate a straight line to go between the last known point that it has a line and the next start of the next line. It will work beautifully no matter what lane you are, whether you're on the innermost or the outermost. I'm thinking they can use pieces of that approach to kind of like navigate on roads that have no lanes at all. Is if it can extrapolate a straight line based on traffic ahead of it, or lines drawn on the road based on tires going on the road or on the ice, that would be fantastic. Like, that's why we have so many questions, and that's why I think Mother Franker and myself, I think we're like almost tweeting Elon every single day saying, get us like hashtag FSD Beta Canada. I think that's the 10th time.
What do you mean almost every day? It's almost every hour.
Every hour, guys.
Yeah. I mean, we're on it, man, because it's exactly this
fans.
kind of stuff. Like, because look, I mean, ultimately it comes down to this. It's the software package, while everybody says it's going to be 10 times more expensive than it is today, every one of us is invested in it or contributes to the learning. And we want to just contribute to it as much as we can and make it as robust as possible from a Canadian perspective, because there's a lot of myths that it can't survive in the winter. We had guys like, I think, shout out to Mad Hungarian and Tesla Owners Online. They did the whole cross-country drive.
Oh, that was amazing.
Just to prove to the point that an EV will work in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
They chose the worst months, and they started from Vancouver, ended up, I think, in Quebec City, or I think it was further down, I think.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic, because that's the kind of stuff that people need to see more of to get faith.
Yeah.
And
our video talks about it as well. The previous episode and the video that we got out last night talks about battery in cold weather, battery degradation in cold weather, and what the range loss is. So it definitely works. Okay, Mark, I had a question. Now we have a scenario where we have the current autopilot does not does not seem to get the hang of this. So we have a speed sign at the back of a bus. So it's a moving target basically. So on the back of the bus it says 40. There's a speed sign which says 40, which means that when the light above it is flashing, everybody behind it must go at 40. So you can't overtake the bus. You have to stay behind the bus for whatever reason. So every time we encounter a bus like that, the current autopilot completely fails. It reduces the speed to 40 kilometers an hour and just tries to stay at 40. Even if the bus is on the third or the fourth lane, it sees the 40 and thinks it's that's the speed for the road, and it stays at 40, although it may be an 80-kilometer road. That's hilarious.
I've encountered that, not with FSD Beta, but which is regular autopilot with a stop sign in the back of a car. Luckily, it was like stop and go traffic, but it definitely said like stopping for stop sign.
Okay.
We didn't see, I mean, it's kind of strange to see that in vehicles, so we didn't see any just driving through town with like anything.
Oh, great. I can see those ice holes messing with us now with their stop signs pulling it out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be... Oh, yeah. You don't have to obstruct any speed limit signs anymore. Just hold a stop sign. Just print out a stop.
Yeah.
We didn't see that, but I would assume, hopefully they're looking into that, because that would be a problem if it didn't work.
Yeah.
I think, didn't Andre Karpathy actually talk about the entire plethora of stop signage that they needed to train the Tesla autopilot system in one of those neural network conferences? I think it was machine learning conferences. That was the example he gave, like an occluded stop sign versus an active one, passive one that's on a regular stand, one that's on the back of, I think back of a bus wasn't, I think, one of those examples. One that's actually on a train track that's moving up and down.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
We have lollipop men and women who stand outside our schools guiding students crossing the road.
Yeah.
So they have handheld stop signs. The car does recognize that. To be honest, even the current current autopilot does recognize that. That's pretty cool. It's recognized it as a stop sign.
Yeah, I noticed one thing recently. There was I noticed this in my car as well. I think it was the previous update, the 2020.44. It was that we were merging onto a highway and it just suddenly detected a construction zone, like a phantom construction zone. And somebody, I think it was on Twitter, asked the question, and I think it was fixed in the .13 update that just came out to everybody. But I think there was a problem with that. It just randomly out of the blue detecting a construction zone. It didn't do anything worse. It didn't stop or it didn't slow down or anything. But that was weird. That was one of those weird ones.
I've seen it when there's those posts in the ground that stick up a little bit, like those reflective posts. Sometimes like the screen changes it to a cone and then back to a post and then a cone and then back to a post. I think maybe because of the color of it. So maybe it was that, like, because if you drive close to a cone, then it says try to move over a lane to get out of the construction zone.
Let's do one thing. Let's quickly power through this and see if there's anything. I know we're way past the time we projected, but let's just quickly just move through and just make sure that there's nothing that we haven't discussed that was... What about the acceleration? I noticed that Ludicrous mode acceleration was a feature released on the Autopilot suite way back. Is there any difference in how the car accelerates? How does a performance variant of a vehicle, where's the performance element utilized? anymore if it's not you who's pressing the accelerator on FSD Beta? I mean, why would I buy a performance variant anymore?
That's a good question. Yeah, we didn't see anything to suggest that it was accelerating. Like we weren't pinned to our seats, for example. I mean, it did accelerate, but like not a dual motor or like a standard range plus. So it didn't.
They might have a Mad Max FSD mode, eh?
Maybe, yeah. If you want to get to your destination faster, you need a performance vehicle.
Or need to be pinned to the back of the seat. Yeah, there could be. Okay, that's one thing, because that's one thing we noticed that was released, right? Supercharger improvements. I don't know if you guys navigated to a supercharger by yourselves from point A to point B, and also hand in hand preconditioning.
Yeah.
Does that all work the same? Right
yeah,
now?
there was no difference. We did navigate to a supercharger, and it basically, I mean, kind of like what Tesla Raj has said, it gets you from point A to point B. It doesn't do door to door. So it did get us to the supercharger, and then it basically just said you're at your destination, and then we still needed to like back into the spot and that kind of stuff.
There you go. Okay, that was my question. That was going to be my question. Like, did it go perfectly? Do the magical, just go back and just open up the charge port and said, okay, now you can please plug in. And hopefully in the future we'll see that snake-like thing just plug in. You won't have to do a thing.
Yeah, like we have smart summon. I think like Elon has alluded to like reverse summon or something like that. So I think that's going to be a separate feature, being able to like back up to a supercharger.
We have moon mode. I think that's what Michael wants to say. Yeah. It's moon mode. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So we've talked about. I mean, any changes in Viper improvements? Did you guys get any rain while you were testing?
No, it was sunny California. There was nothing. That might also be another reason why the people who were selected were selected potentially. Like, because if you think about it, they're all across the U.S. It's not too like the weather wasn't too crazy when it was released. So I mean, it's getting closer to winter now, but at least before, like I didn't really see any videos of people in snow or anything like that. So maybe they just want to be extra careful and rolling it out slowly just to get some learning on the road. And then from there, they'll start folding in more people probably.
Because that's going to be the trickle down question after question. It's going to be, how does Autopilot do in Canada, for example? How does it do in the snow? How does it do in the heavy rain, slush, all that happy stuff that can obstruct the actual sensors on the vehicle? What does it do? Does it handle? I mean, that can happen to the highest level of autonomy. Doesn't have to happen to normal vehicles either. It can happen to the most autonomous vehicle. If it can't see, can't sense, how does it navigate through the real world, right?
I would say, like, if we think about it, at least from what Elon Musk has kind of alluded to, like humans are still able to drive in all these conditions. Therefore, if you have 6 more eyes than what humans do, you should be able to drive a little bit better. So like in really heavy rain, Autopilot, at least from my experience, I haven't tried FSD Beta, but Autopilot drives substantially better than humans in heavy rain, because obviously the front windshield is a little bit, hard to see out of, but all the other cameras are unobstructed. Like the looking back to the left, looking forward to the left, all of those can see the lane lines perfectly in heavy rain. So it's really just the front ones that are a little bit obstructed, but radar will go through rain. So it's a lot better than humans, I would say, in rain. I don't know about snow. I've never tried snow. So
okay. I'm going to just quickly gloss over and just...
before you gloss over, I just want to make a small note for people who are watching it after the fact.
Yes.
It is Hoon mode. Hoon is actually it's a local lingo for hooligans who drive recklessly. So we want a mode for them.
Well,
Hoon mode.
For people who have got the performance variants and want a performance FSD experience,
it was just keep weaving in and out. There was no care.
I'd like a Hoon mode.
I'll get a Hoon mode.
Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Just say you have to choose if you want higher G-force or lower G-force.
Right.
I realized it'll make amazing video when you have a front-facing camera and everybody sprint to the back of the seats and must go faster. It's actually cool.
You have to agree to like not bringing coffee or other liquids into the vehicle.
Yeah. Oh yes, absolutely.
There's no way you can be distracted because you're so pinned back into your seat that you can't look anywhere or do anything else.
Must go faster. It sounds so cool.
All right. Let's wrap up pretty soon here. Just quickly, air quality index and weather stuff. Did we see anything in the FSD beta that indicated any of those? I know they launched in China.
I don't think there was anything in terms of weather, but definitely it saw things in the road.
Okay.
So that was a huge plus, at least for confidence, because you knew, okay, at least it knows what this is. Whether or not it makes the right decision now or not, it's a different story.
Right.
But at the very least, you need to know this is not supposed to be here, and then make a decision.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Regen braking, was there any difference, or was there more, less? No difference.
It seemed like the same. Like it would do regenerative braking still. Like you could see the green bar going down.
Okay. And I'm sure Tesla basically has given more ways, additional ways for beta testers to provide feedback. But was there anything with respect to the voice command reliability that you noticed?
We didn't really use voice command. I think maybe we did it once or twice. So there was nothing really complicated there. But since FSD Beta is like EAP, it does early access program. It does have that little camera on it.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to some folks today, and they were saying that for the FSD Beta specific, those folks only, when you get home or to a Wi-Fi point, it does upload more data than like a normal car would. So it's not.
I think Tesla just opened up that funnel, that infinite data pipeline, true unlimited data. Like, I had the same experience the other day. I mean, after a rainy session of driving, I came back home and I think I posted on Twitter like 600 megs, like within a minute of me coming back home and connecting to Wi-Fi. Like, are you kidding me? Well, I must have obviously disengaged Autopilot quite a number of times for them to upload that much data that fast. And you would think, are they actually uploading packets of video now versus to train the neural network? Video versus just still frames, you would think?
Could be.
Could be, right?
They anonymize it, isn't it? They don't have markers on it.
It's not tied to the actual user, the account itself. It's just a data stream that comes in, but capturing video versus actual.
Could be, absolutely.
All right, so we're almost done here. Just going through. They released so many updates, like dash cam, performance and launch, mode improvements, out-of-order supercharger stalls. Now, you would think that the out-of-order supercharger stall data has to be super real-time for an FSD type situation, for it to know and navigate properly, right? You would think. So they might see improvements in that.
We didn't see anything like on the screen to suggest that, but I would think that, that would have to be pretty robust to work, because like sometimes people put like a little plastic thing over the handle, or they don't, they put them on top of the supercharger.
Right.
If it's not working. So I don't know how Tesla would know that.
Right.
And they have to get that Cobra automatic charger thing to come through, because let's face it, let's say we've gone into a robo-taxi situation, and I am a complete Tesla noob, but I'm hiring the car to go to Melbourne, and halfway through I have to charge twice. I don't know how to get out and plug that in. I have never driven an electric car, so they need to get that automatic charging cable to come through. Otherwise, it can't work as a robotaxi, because I wouldn't have any idea how to get off, open the charge port and plug it in. I have never done it before, so how would I know?
I think it's fair to say that Tesla has a lot more information than they expose to customers, like partially because they don't want to confuse people. Like we're probably all a little bit technical power users of Tesla because we're Tesla fans, but to the average person, probably they don't really want to be confused. So like saying exactly which stall is out of order, I think Tesla has that information. And someone told me an anecdote that sometimes the superchargers have to be updated. So that could be a reason why they're out of order too. Like they just have to install an update. So I think Tesla knows exactly which ones are out of order. It's just like if there's some superchargers in that with like 30 plus stalls. So trying to list out, 5 stalls or 1 stall that might be out of order might be just too much confusion for end users.
Oh yeah, there's absolutely, like, especially if you want to take the ownership. So if you want, like, for example, like the world wants Tesla to start a robo-taxi network, not all the people in the Teslas are going to be Tesla owners with the know-how or the skill set.
Exactly.
They're going to be stop in, get in the vehicle, get out, kind of like an Uber thing where they have an app on their phone and they just have to do it. And technically speaking, the vehicle that comes to pick up the person should not require a supercharger detour.
No, if it's an interstate, let's say.
Yeah, automatically route the vehicle with the highest charge level based on the distance of travel for that client to go and pick up that client, so that you can take out the superchargers out of the equation.
So one thing that can be done is this is what we have thought about. So let's say I'm going to travel from here to Melbourne, which is 1,000 kilometers. Let's say there's no way we don't have a 1,000-kilometer car yet. The tri-motor Cybertruck may have 1,000 kilometers. Fingers crossed. Now, so what the Tesla can do is one of two things: either have the automatic thing, or it can have a video on the screen which shows how to charge the car too. The third thing it can do, which is more interesting, is it can automatically alert another customer, say, oh, can you meet midway? Can you meet at 500 kilometers? Because that's all the range that I have. I'll meet you at 500 kilometers, and then the customer just switches to the next person's robo taxi, and then he continues on his merry way. And this car can just stay and get itself plugged and charged or something like that. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I would think that would be. I mean, with enough Teslas on the road, that would actually be the optimal user experience. Although if you had like a lot of luggage, that might be a different story. But if you didn't have a ton of stuff, then you just have to move your body into a new car. People would probably opt for it because it's so much faster.
That'd be interesting, isn't it? Luggage. I never thought about luggage. Yeah. Sorry.
Nash, what do you do? Do you give your customers a quick run through on the vehicle when you rent it out? Okay.
Yeah. So what we do is I go through an app called Test Lender. So it gives a QR code, and so it gives them a near total Tesla app experience. So that QR code is sent ahead of time, and they just scan it and they download that app. The app is free. They download the app, and so they get the app. And when they come in, they use the app and they open the car by themselves. And then we give them a quick rundown. Because of COVID, we don't want to do too much in-person thingy. And then we just give them a rundown on what to do and what to use. And we tell them, my car has FSD. So it has autopilot features, but most of the time we tell them FSD. If you use FSD, it's on you. If you hit the car, you have to pay for the entire thing. Most of the people don't want you to use FSD. They want the experience of owning and using a Tesla. And I must say, touch wood, fingers crossed. I've had multiple repeat clients who've hired the car every month. One of them has even asked me whether I'll be happy to lend the car out for 3 months at a time, so that he wants to keep it in his house, use the car, find out if it really would fit his workflow, and then buy the car eventually. So I'm hoping that it's really nice to be in that cusp of change. I did not plan it. It just happens that way, that people are in the same mind frame. They don't want to take the step forward because it is an expensive vehicle.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
That's cool.
All right, let's continue and wrap up soon. Let's give ourselves 5 minutes and let's wrap up. Okay.
Yeah.
GPS data. We know Tesla's basically updating GPS data along with the software pushes. Anything about cabin camera? Do you know if it's active right now?
No, and for the FSD Beta, we were in a Model X, which doesn't have this kind of monitoring or camera. I mean, besides the steering wheel and the seatbelt. But beyond that, there's no way really to monitor, which is kind of interesting because I don't know, if you have FSD on all these different models of cars, is it going to have different logic? Like for Model 3, you need to pay attention. For Model S or X, you don't? Or is it like it's hard to say how they're going to?
Has anyone ordered a Model S or X in 2021? And do they know if it comes with the interior cabin camera? That would be a question to ask, because if they want to harmonize the solution across the platforms, they'd rather have the camera at least either retrofittable or available in the newer models. I mean, like they have with the 3 and the Y from the offset, right?
That was something that John brought up too. Like maybe if you want to opt into the robotaxi fleet, maybe you have to add a camera for your S or X.
Like otherwise, how do you guarantee that the interior cabin is not compromised with the robotaxi application, right? So okay, nothing.
Have that too. I mean, I don't want somebody getting in my car at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night and then they do the nasty inside the car. I'm like, no, I don't want that.
Oh well.
Hey,
that's
you know what?
You might market, man. Like self-cleaning, like cleaning up and automatic.
Live streaming, Nash. You might make some extra money.
Yeah, no, that's I know the perfect channel for that. It starts with a P.
Oh well. All right. So nothing. I mean, so superchargers. We spoke about it. Nothing. about pay-per-use supercharging. I mean, right now we're talking about autopilot. So I think this should be the last. We're still in July. And passenger face vent. Any changes to this thing at all?
No, we didn't see anything with FSD Beta.
Okay. Was there anything about dynamic brake lights? Did you guys notice if it automatically... that feature was only released for the EU, I think it was, I think a few months ago, but we haven't seen sign of it in North America. Do you know if it was incorporated?
Which feature is that?
Dynamic brake lights.
What does that do, though?
I think, if you slow down really fast, it would flash the brake lights, right, to indicate that you're stopping really fast. Having traveled at a high speed, if you come to a stop, like if you decelerate rapidly within a certain amount of time, it's going to flash your rear brake lights so that the person behind gets more aware of the situation, right?
Yeah, we didn't hear anything about that or see anything of that because like there was nothing really.
I don't know if you'd be looking for it though. That's the thing. That's the thing. If you're not looking for it, you probably won't notice because you're just going to be braking. Like if you guys are going really fast, or FSD had to really slam on it, did it blink the rear brake lights? I mean, that'd be something to look for.
I think we would have to have either a follow vehicle or like on the visualization, probably it would show that, but we didn't see that, I don't think.
Okay. Yeah, notifications history and stuff is fine. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. All right, August. This was a heavy month. A lot of stuff that came out to us, and driving visualization improvements was one. That's pretty obvious. I think they're going to keep that as an optional toggle for people who get motion sickness looking at that stuff. It looks like something out of a raw video game stream. Like, some people love it, and some people absolutely. It's polarizing. It's very polarizing. I mean, would I want to see that?
Psychedelic.
Yeah, it's pretty psychedelic. I mean, would you want to do a daily drive with that?
The colors are a little hard to like decipher quickly because there's so many different colors, but the accuracy is pretty high. So if they just dulled it down a little bit, probably it would be fine.
Was there any specific? I think, wasn't there a change to? I mean, I'm just going to run through this. Green light traffic chimes already there. Normal autopilot, speed assist. We know we were talking about posted speed limits and reading speed signs versus map data. Cruise set speed improvements is something where they've given us an offset with respect to the posted speed limit. One of the downsides to this particular one is it doesn't speed up. When a speed limit changes from a lower one to a higher one, it doesn't accelerate up to the higher speed limit. And I think it's Tesla Tom's channel as well, where he showed a test in the latest firmware that came out, and it still doesn't do that. That's a little annoying because you can see, like, when it's 80, we have it here all the time, 80 changes to 100 kilometers an hour, obviously. And autopilot set speed changes to 100, but the speed of the vehicle doesn't increase. So you have to either manually increase the speed limit or disengage and accelerate up and reset autopilot for it to. That's a little annoying because it slows down automatically. It doesn't speed up automatically. Maybe that's by design. So
I don't think we encountered that, but my thought, I've heard people post about that. My thought is that maybe, like, is it possible that you manually overrode it, or it could be interpreted that you manually overrode it by changing the max speed? Therefore, it's like, okay, well, you chose this, therefore I'm going to keep it at that.
No, it's max speed. I have to check whether max speed itself changes to 100.
Yeah.
When the speed limit changes, or the max speed stays at 80. Because if the max speed stays at 80, obviously it's not going to go faster.
Right.
But you would think that's counterintuitive because if a speed limit changes to a higher, you would accelerate, but maybe it's in the algorithm to always be safe, slow down, but never speed up kind of thing.
And the logic has changed there because, like, I've been road tripping a lot.
Yeah.
Throughout California. And when you engage autopilot, I don't know if it was like 2 or 3 updates ago, it used to be you set your max speed, you engage autopilot, it goes to that. But now it seems like whatever your max speed was, like let's say I'm going 80 miles per hour and the speed limit's 70.
Yeah.
When I engage it, it starts it at the current speed. It doesn't start, where I had it before. Like it resets the max to the current speed, which probably that's good for safety, but it's just now I have to reset it up again.
Right. All right. So I think we're here, guys. The last thing we did see, the most recent one we did see was improved efficiency. Hey, this was awesome. Like really the amount of details, the depth of detail, I think was really amazing. We can't wait for this to hit our respective countries and continents in full.
All right.
The chat was amazing too. They had some fantastic
Oh
questions.
yeah. Thank you everybody for joining in. I think we were handling questions throughout. There you go. Awesome, guys. Does anyone have any closing remarks? Any questions? Anything that was unanswered? Hey, I think that we had a couple of questions from Twitter that I'd like to just. There was a question. There's really this is just 2 questions. EVHQ. This is about batteries, though. You think they could mix and match cells to address temperature constraints? That would be interesting.
Now, I think that would be difficult because the 2 cells are completely different. One is a tabless model, and the other is a tab model. Tesla wouldn't want to do that because we'll have what is it called, loading issues between the connections. So we wouldn't want that, isn't it? Because the 4680 cell is 6 times more powerful than the 2170 cell. So they probably wouldn't want to do that. What they may do is because it's going to be shelled inside the car. So it's going to be part of the design itself. They may have different shielding, I think, or something else or different warming of the batteries. Different way they warm the batteries may differ. I think that's probably what they'll do. We don't know what the heat those batteries generate. Those cells are massive. I mean, I have the 2180 cell. This is the 2170 cell. This is the size of the 2170 cell. And I have this is the 18650 cell or 1865 cell. And I'm 3D printing the other one. That is massive. It is so large. Yeah. So it probably would generate a fair amount of heat. I don't know. I don't know what the thermal dynamics of the batteries are.
You would almost think there would be a thermocouple. I mean, just the different amount of heat from different sizes and thicknesses of batteries. You would almost think it's inefficient from a stacking standpoint.
Exactly.
You can't design a structure that takes you would not be able to pack as much density into the whole structure, you would think. But definitely, I mean, thank you, EVHQ2. It's an interesting idea. Definitely, I mean, much smarter people than us are looking into it, I guess.
Based on the battery day presentation, it seemed like the 4680s handle heat a lot better, from an energy perspective, because there's not just one funnel to go through, and that distance is much smaller that the energy has to travel from. So I don't see why they would mix and match, because 4680s will most likely be cheaper and made in higher volume, so they're just going to go with that. But I think 4680s, except maybe the exception would be supercharging, but beyond that, I think they're always going to be much cooler.
Yeah, I guess so. I know too.
Right.
I guess so. Yeah.
Just another question here, and one more to go. We spoke about this. Dealing with snow and adjusting to speed conditions. I mean, we all are waiting with bated breath as to see how it actually handles when it's a sheet of ice. Anyway, we'll see. Obviously, RJO 71342. We'll get back to you once it comes to Canada and we can test. And once Australia gets snow.
I don't think anyone in California has tested with snow yet. Let me put it that way.
What's up, Nash?
Road trip.
He was on the chats for so long. It is Ray Johnson.
Oh, it's Ray. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ray.
Probably he just left. That's fine. That's all.
Okay. And this is the last one. What's going to be required to get to level 5 autonomy and therefore robo-taxis?
Oh, that's a huge question. That needs the entire podcast by itself. Does it require FSD Beta .43 or .53 versus .13 that's there today? What do you think, Mark?
Well, it's called FSD Beta for a reason. Definitely, it's not perfect, and there are a lot of areas for improvement. So that's why they're trying to get feedback. I wouldn't try to put it in the most complex scenarios right now because they're still testing it. So they're trying to, I think, ease into, okay, this is the next most important edge case, this is the next most important, and so on and so forth, until the edge cases are basically few and far between. And a few of the cases where we saw, it didn't necessarily do the optimal solution, it adjusted and fixed itself. So in one case, we had a left turn upcoming, and we're in a one-lane road. So it got into the left lane, which was a left turn lane, but it was the signal before it needed to turn left, which it could have rerouted. Most likely, we just kind of let it see what was going to happen. And stayed in the left turn lane, stopped as it should. It waited for all the cars to pass, and then it's okay, I'm in the wrong lane. So once all the cars passed, it went back into the lane and continued on. So it seems like it knows when it hasn't done something perfect, and it's learning. It
Right.
can adjust on the fly, which is really something that Autopilot today I don't think can do. So that
No.
was a huge vote of confidence, even though it's like it did kind of make the wrong choice, but then after the fact, it fixed itself. So it wasn't anything too critical where we were worried, but it was more like, oh, it is actually thinking on the fly, and it can understand if there's a better way of doing it.
See, that's very different. That's a huge step up from the current Autopilot, right? Because the current Autopilot has its flaws, and people got to live with their flaws.
Yeah.
And for it to learn on the fly is pretty damn awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that wraps up our questions. I think it's a wrap, people.
Thank you.
I think we've done it. I think we've done it on we said 45.
Now
We took an hour and 45.
Now in 40 minutes.
I think
We have the timer at the top.
I think we're staying true to Elon. We're doing things in Elon time.
Yeah, I know.
But
That was good.
yeah, thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate everyone taking their time. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Glen. Thanks, Nash. I think this was a fantastic conversation, and I think everybody's really excited to get their hands, at least in up north and down south, to get FSD Beta.
Absolutely.
A lot of good questions.
Sorry?
A lot of good questions from everyone too.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody on Twitter. Thank you, everybody in the chat for taking the time, staying, asking your questions. Hopefully we were able to do a good job answering them. All right, until the next time. Cheers.
Ta-da.
Take it easy.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great night
Bye.
everyone.
Cheers.
and a good
Have
morning.
a good rest of the weekend.
Yeah. Ta-da.
See ya.